Think of a national constitution as an architectural system. It requires load-bearing pillars to distribute weight and maintain stability. When India's framers finalized the original document in 1950, they built two massive pillars, Part 3, which guaranteed fundamental rights to citizens, and Part 4, which laid out directive principles for the state. But a third structural support was entirely missing from the blueprints, explicitly defined citizen duties. Look closely at the text of the original preamble. It secures liberty of thought and equality of status for all citizens. Notice what is absent. There is zero mention of what the citizen owes in return. The drafters didn't omit these responsibilities by accident. In the wake of independence, they assumed that a population actively fighting for freedom naturally understood its civic obligations. They believed duties were implied by the act of citizenship itself. Over the next 2 decades, relying purely on implied duties revealed a structural vulnerability. The state had legally binding obligations to the people, and the people had legally protected rights against the state. The ledger was entirely one-sided. To correct this imbalance, the system required a deliberate update. India needed to transition from a framework focused exclusively on granting rights to one that clearly articulated civic responsibility. By 1976, during the national emergency, the government decided to close this gap. They formed the Swaran Singh Committee, tasking it with formally defining what a citizen must do to maintain the nation's integrity. The committee's work culminated in the 42nd Amendment Act. This legislation injected an entirely new chapter into the Constitution, Part IVA, containing a single article, 51A, which listed 10 specific fundamental duties. To draft these responsibilities, India looked outward. They drew primary inspiration from the Constitution of the erstwhile Soviet Union, which heavily emphasized the socialist principle that the rights of citizens are inseparable from their obligations to the collective. This edition also aligned with global standards. As you can see in this photograph displaying the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 29(1) explicitly states that everyone has duties to the community. The structure remained untouched until the 86th Amendment Act of 2002. This final update added an 11th duty, requiring parents and guardians to provide educational opportunities to children between the ages of 6 and 14. Through these two targeted amendments, the Indian government borrowed international philosophical concepts and codified them to enforce a strictly domestic definition of civic participation. We can visualize the Constitution's core logic through these 3 pillars. Part 3, fundamental rights are justiciable, meaning you can sue the state if they are violated. Part 4, directive principles, are positive goals for the government, but non-justiciable. And Part IVA introduces the fundamental duties. Looking closely at this third pillar, you'll notice it stands apart from punitive mechanisms. Like directive principles, fundamental duties are non-justiciable. The Constitution provides no direct legal mechanism to fine or imprison a citizen simply for ignoring them. To master the 11 duties for exam purposes, we map them onto an A to K mnemonic matrix. A is to abide by the Constitution and respect the national flag. B is to follow Bapu's noble ideals of the freedom struggle. C is to protect the core sovereignty and unity of India. And D is to defend the country when called upon. E stands for equality, promoting harmony and renouncing practices derogatory to women. F is to value our fine heritage. G is for greenery, protecting forests, lakes, and wildlife. And H is for humanism, developing a scientific temper and spirit of inquiry. I means keeping public property invulnerable by abjuring violence. J is for joint excellence in individual and collective activity. Finally, K is for kids' education, mandating opportunities for children up to age 14. Critics often point out the legal ambiguity in this list. Terms like noble ideals, rich heritage, and humanism are inherently vague. Without precise definitions and penal consequences, enforcing them through a police apparatus is practically impossible. This lack of direct enforcement creates a specific constitutional status. These are essentially moral benchmarks, the framers' way of outlining what participation in the Indian project looks like in practice, even if the state cannot jail you for ignoring them. If duties are non-justiciable, how do they exercise any practical power? we must look at how the Supreme Court utilizes them. The judiciary does not use Article 51A to prosecute individuals. It uses it as an interpretive tool. When the court tests whether a new statute aligns with the Constitution, they use the fundamental duties as a metric. If a law helps fulfill a citizen's duty, the court will typically validate it. Building on the Kesavananda Bharati doctrine, the court uses these duties to resolve friction between individual fundamental rights and the state's directive principles. They read the components together to harmonize the Constitution's broader objectives. We see this clearly in the MC Mehta cases. The court utilized Article 51A Clause G, the duty to protect the natural environment, to validate strict environmental regulations, effectively converting a moral duty into enforceable legal standards for industries. In the Bijo Emanuel case, the court weighed the Article 51A duty to respect the national anthem against the right to religious freedom. They ruled that standing respectfully fulfills the duty, even if religious beliefs prohibit actual singing. The Ames Students' Union case solidified this approach. The Supreme Court explicitly declared that fundamental duties hold the same philosophical and constitutional weight as fundamental rights. The judiciary uses Part IVA to maintain a specific equilibrium. By weighing individual rights against these collective duties, the court ensures that the Constitution functions as a unified whole rather than a collection of conflicting parts. When encountering Article 51A in a competitive exam, the questions are designed to test your precision. Examiners weaponize the specific phrasing of these duties to generate incorrect options. Aspirants must look for the precise target of Article 51A. Unlike certain fundamental rights that protect any person on Indian soil, including foreigners, these duties are addressed exclusively to Indian citizens. The history of the Swaran Singh Committee is another common source of confusion. While the 42nd Amendment codified 10 duties, the committee's original recommendation was for a list of exactly 8. Distinguishing between these duties and directive principles requires focusing on the active subject. While directives guide the state's policy, the phrasing in Article 51A consistently uses active verbs like to cherish and to follow, specific instructions for the individual. Finally, watch for the 86th Amendment assertion reason questions. This specific amendment operated simultaneously across 2 sections. It created a fundamental right to education for the child under Article 21A, while simultaneously generating a fundamental duty for the parent under Article 51A Clause K. Rote memorization will only get you so far. Surviving these questions requires identifying the exact linguistic and structural boundaries where rights, directives, and duties intersect. To recap, the Constitution rests on 3 pillars. Rights protect the individual, directives guide the state, and duties obligate the citizen. The 42nd Amendment added the first 10 duties in 1976, and the 86th Amendment added the final education duty in 2002. Remember their origin. Inspired by the USSR, they exist exclusively in Part IVA, consisting solely of Article 51A. While they are legally non-justiciable for citizens, they are highly potent tools for the Supreme Court to validate welfare state legislation and interpret constitutional bounds. Ultimately, the Indian Constitution operates as an exact equation. The rights granted to the individual must balance out with the responsibilities that individual renders back to the nation. Prepared by New Careers Academy, Chandigarh, specialists in NDA, CDS, AFCAT, CAF, and SSB preparation since 1967.